Well, not so much of a scruffy little corner as it was on the last time I did a video from this location. This is the same field, but this time it's been planted up with Phacelia. Beautiful plant, becoming more and more widespread now, used as a green fertilizer, so to speak. It gets ploughed into the ground. But it provides a valuable nectar source, and there are more bees using this Phacelia than there were last year, a lot more. Last year I remarked on how difficult it was for me to find any kind of bumblebee in a field of Phacelia just to the back of where I am now, but it's a different story this year. And nice that it is too. Yes, once again I've collapsed on the ground in a heap. And quite right too, being sat next to this stuff. I love Phacelia. Many people probably won't, but it's a lovely way to enrich the soil. It's also a great way to heap lots of available nectar onto our depleted invertebrates, which are doing better this year. Mixed fortunes for some species, but on the whole things are greatly improved on 2024. In fact, I came back from moth trapping at Besthorpe a few nights ago, and in the car headlights I've never seen so many moths as I did that night on the way home. Hundreds and hundreds, a lot like how it used to be. And at one time of day in the early 2000s, that was how I used to catch moths here, by going along the roads late at night, and then when I saw a moth in the headlights, I would get out of the car and net it. That was how I started into mothing. But the other night I've never seen so many moths, and I came through the Eakring area from Kershaw, and there were just so many moths you had to slow down. No point bemoaning the lack of moths in car headlights when you're doing 70 miles an hour and killing a good percentage of those flying around. But it was wonderful to see. It was really nice to see. It was a very hot night, I must admit, but it was still wonderful to see that amount. I've never seen that amount of moths while I've been covering the Eakring area, and that's since 1997. But today I have had a brief encounter, and a surprising encounter, with a moth just further up back there. As I was walking down to this part of this field, I was looking for a leaf mine on this hedge, and then all of a sudden, between me and the hedge, a matter of only 2 feet away from my face, was a Hummingbird Hawk-moth who was trying to lay. She was looking for a suitable egg-laying location on goose grass. I was as stunned as the moth was. So stunned I didn't even manage to get out an expletive before turning the camera on. I may have some very brief footage showing something grey racing around the hedge, but she was definitely in egg-laying mode. But what got me thinking was that how they must be attracted to these fields of Phacelia. I may well come down here later this evening. If the breeze drops, it's very breezy today. I think this fields like this could be buzzing with Hummingbird Hawk-moths. We found years ago, Dillis and I, through lengthy days studying and watching the antics and comings and goings of Hummingbird Hawk-moths to our garden, that they generally came down to nectar about every 2 hours. Certainly the first visit was not long after about 6 in the morning, and then again about 8:30, and so on. They would come in the early afternoon, and the last feed they had before going away to roost was usually between sort of 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock. You could almost guarantee it, because occasionally in autumn you'll get hummingbird hawk-moths that will stay around for a day or two, and they can be usually can be identified by marks or signs of wear on the back if you look close enough. And I think a field like this, it's going to attract them. Well, isn't that just a picture? Loundwood and Loundwood Annex on the left of the screen, and then just on the very right hand side of the screen you may well be able to make out the first buildings of Eakring Village. It really is an absolute beautiful evening. It's been quite windy today, but that wind's died down a little bit, and I'm here just to see whether a theory that I had earlier today would come true. When I visited this area today, I was walking down this hedgerow at the western end of this field and was surprised by an egg-laying female hummingbird hawk-moth. She didn't actually lay while I was close to it and soon zoomed off, but she was definitely in egg-laying mode. And while I was sat at the bottom of this field, I wondered whether, with all this nectar availability and the smell, would it attract hummingbird hawk-moths or other species of moths too? There's lots of bumblebees even still now, still nectaring on this fabulous flower. And so I've come for an hour to catch a glimpse of any hummingbird hawk-moths, just to see if they do visit this field. I had 2 hummingbird hawk-moths today, the one that I've just mentioned, and then when I got home, another one paid a 5-10 minutes visit to the garden. So they are around. That's 4 I've had this year. Maybe we could get 5. But I can quite imagine in favourable years, now that this crop is being planted regularly, or with increasing regularity, I can imagine that you could get a number of migrant hawk-moths nectaring at this field. We shall find out. It's the perfect evening for it. And so I'm going to have a wander down to the bottom, find somewhere just to sit, and so I can look along at flower height to see if my thoughts are true. This isn't the worst place someone could spend an hour on a summer's evening, is it? The scent from Phacelia is quite remarkable. You can smell a field even if you were driving by it on a night time. It's a very heavy scent, a beautiful scent, it really is. It's a beautiful flower too. My theory, and probably the best way to look for any hummingbird hawk-moths, is to do this: get down at the level of the flowers and just sit and scan. But I'm going to continue into the bottom. That's where the sun is still on this field, but it's beautiful. We're starting to lose the sun. Some clouds starting to build because we are expecting to have some rain overnight. No sign of any hummers here yet. But this is an increasingly common crop now, used as a green fertiliser crop, ploughed in. So there's plenty of choice for any moths flying through the county. What a beautiful evening it's been. No sign of any hummingbird hawk-moths, but it is a large field. There's a road here over towards Loudwood that's come out and is now browsing on something that's been planted in this field. It's too far for me to show you, you won't even see a dot. There's a couple of swifts overhead and a few other birds flying about too. Very peaceful. I'm glad I've come out for this hour. I wasn't going to. Didn't fancy it. Sometimes I have to really sort of force myself to go out. It's so easy to stay in. The goldfinch comes overhead. There's a bird that's done well. And even the road's peaceful now. That's unusual at Ekring. But what an enjoyable hour to be spent here on a summer's evening, looking for something which hasn't turned up. But it may well do on another night. And at least I've had one in the garden this year.